Journalists in Manila had very little time to cover Monday's meeting between President Donald Trump and his Philippine counterpart Rodrigo Duterte. But it was enough to witness one aspect of the budding bromance between these two world leaders. As soon as journalists began asking questions about Duterte's deplorable human rights record, security shooed them from the room. Duterte pointed at the departing reporters and said, "Guys, you are the spies." This elicited a laugh from President Trump, who feels a kinship with anyone who opposes a truth-seeking press. According to Human Rights Watch, at least 177 journalists have been killed in the Philippines since 1986, making it one of the deadliest countries to be a reporter. Of these, nearly half were targeted for their coverage of politics, corruption, crime and human rights, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Here at home, there's been a worrying uptick in attacks on journalists since Trump became president. The Press Freedom Tracker, the project of a large coalition of media rights groups including Free Press, documents the dozens of arrests and assaults on journalists in the last 10 months. The link to Trump isn't coincidental. He sucked up much of the oxygen of his presidency, discrediting any journalism that challenges his grip on power or rattles his fragile ego. Alongside Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, reporters figure as go-to scapegoats for anything that ails Trump's bumbling administration. For Trump, a functioning fourth estate is the enemy of the American people. Trump's attacks on a Democratic media are often impulsive, playing out on Twitter in the early morning hours or during his direct encounters with journalists. Media outlets on the receiving end of Trump's critique, including CNN, The New York Times, The Washington Post and NBC News, have devoted airtime and column inches to defend their reporters and the work they do every day. But while Trump is attacking reporters on the front lines, he's quietly granting massive favors to any giant media company that's willing to toe the administration line. His lead henchman on this front, Federal Communications Commission Chairman Ajit Pai, has operated more discreetly to restructure media policy to suit a handful of news conglomerates. Pai has scheduled an agency vote for this Thursday to undo several of the media ownership limits that currently prevent one company from controlling too much media in a single market. Pai wants to destroy the cross-ownership rules that typically prohibit a single company from owning a newspaper, television and radio stations in the same broadcast area. He also seeks to undo a local television ownership rule that bars a broadcaster from owning multiple stations in smaller local markets. Pai also wants to give the FCC's full blessing to broadcasting arrangements known as joint sales agreements, which allow a broadcast company to run the news operations of multiple stations in a single area that would otherwise compete against each other. The one corporation that most immediately stands to benefit most from this wholesale rollback of ownership limits is the right-wing Sinclair Broadcast Group, which is seeking FCC approval of its proposed $3.9 billion merger with Tribune Media, a deal that would create a broadcast giant controlling more than 233 local TV stations reaching 72% of the U.S. population. Sinclair routinely orders its local affiliates to run segments featuring its chief political analyst Boris Epshteyn, a loyal former Trump aide who's brought the president's agenda to the public airwaves. Back in June, for example, Epshteyn praised the White House for attempting, however briefly, to phase out on-camera press briefings, suggesting without explanation that people are much better off for it.